Welcome to the Runna Podcast. I'm Ben, head coach.
And I'm Anya, international marathon runner, and we're proud to be the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide.
We'll be bringing insightful conversation with truly inspirational guests, as well as running tips and tricks for runners of all abilities.
Today on the podcast, we have Mike Coe, known on social media as Kofuzi, who is one of the most well-known shoe reviewers on most platforms, but he ran us through his journey from being inspired to first run through his dad, who was running when he was 60, to now having completed all 6 marathon majors. I love talking about shoes, I love talking about running, and he has some amazing insights, so you're going to enjoy this one.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming to join us on today's episode. Before we dive into you and your running, I guess it would make sense to tell everyone that you started out your career in running coming from being a lawyer.
Yes.
I guess with that in mind, where did you start running? Is it always something you did alongside being a lawyer, or when did you first start running?
I mean, I started running in middle school. So when I was about what my daughter's age is now, like 11 or 12 years old. And I ran through high school and a little bit in college, but I was never very good. And so I stopped doing it as an adult, and I came back to running, kind of later in life.
And what brought you back to running?
Well, my first marathon was a couch to marathon, which is not something that I advise. It's as a bad idea as it sounds. But my dad was turning 60 and he was like, I'm doing a marathon this fall. And I was like, well, I'm turning 30. Let's go. Let's try it. How hard could it be?
And was your dad a regular runner?
No, he wasn't either. And so he came to running even later in life than I did, at least in terms of long distance. And so that was my first marathon in 2010. And it was such a great experience that I thought, I'm done with that. I don't ever have to run again. And so I took another 6 or 7 long years of a break after that.
And what was it that got your dad to want to sign up to a marathon at 60? Was it just this lifetime challenge that he'd never done, or?
I mean, he had a friend that was running, and running's contagious. So if you have a friend that runs, eventually you'll end up running, Well, I think that's what it was.
You can speak for that because you've now probably shared that infectiousness of running with thousands and thousands of people all over the world. But so you did the marathon, and you said it was kind of couch to marathon, and then you could put it away for a while because it was quite hard. Mm-hmm. Why did you keep running?
I came back to it because a buddy of mine that I met in law school, he was like, hey, you used to run. I want to sign up for this race. You want to do it together? And I was like, sure, let's do it. I mean, again, how hard could it be? I've done a marathon before, so I should be fine to run a 10-mile race. But I had to really, start training and figuring out training again. And that's what kind of got me back into it. That's when I was like, maybe I should look at some different shoes because I don't always there's got to be a way to make this better. And so I just started trying different shoes, and I was like, oh, this does make it better. And so then I was feeling good. I was doing something with my friend, and I was enjoying running much more. And that's kind of what made it stick kind of like in the final time.
And you were still a lawyer at this point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you balance that training?
Yeah, it was mostly like before work or after work. And that was kind of easy to do. Because I was only doing it like maybe 2 times, 3 times a week. A lot of stuff on the weekends, and it was a nice way to kind of spend time with your friends. As an adult, we had kids, and so it's just like you're looking for ways to not always just go to the bar, which is fun to do. But as you get older, you're like, maybe we need some other activities. And so this kind of, checked off a lot of boxes, and it kind of really took off for both of us.
And so when you say it took off, you loved it, or it actually started to move in a direction towards you could see this becoming a career one day?
No, I started to not hate it, and so even though I ran a lot of my younger life, it was always like, well, you got to do this so that you can compete well, and so it was always a means to an end. Mm-hmm. But then the kind of the third kind of go around I had with running is when I was like, oh, I kind of miss it if I don't run on a day. And so I was like, let's add another day in the week. And then 3 became 4, and 4 became 5, 5 becomes 6, and then it becomes 7. And you're like, I guess I'm doing this every day now. Okay.
And how did that then transition from being this amazing thing that makes your life more fulfilled and everything else to being something that you thought could slowly become your career? And how long did it take to leave the legal industry?
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought that I would want to make it a career. Mm-hmm. So I always just thought that this would be something that hopefully could at least pay for the shoes, because I was going through a lot of shoes, and I wanted to try more things like watches. Because when I started running, almost no one wore a GPS watch. And so like those were starting to become popular. Like, I'd like to try one of those. I'd like to try some of these other shorts, but like I can't really just go buying all this stuff. So maybe if I can find a way to make the math work out, then maybe I can justify some of these purchases a little bit better. And so that's I was happy with that for a long time.
What shoes were you wearing for your first marathon?
The first one, it was a Mizuno something.
Oh, wow.
Something like a semi-stability shoe. And it's one of the reasons why I don't review stability shoes anymore. It's because it just wasn't a good fit for me. It was 2010. So like if you walked into a running store, you were walking out with a stability shoe. It was just something that happened at the time.
But I feel like Mizuno shoes are quite rogue. Like they're not that commonplace, at least not in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be pretty popular they're still popular in the United States, but they had a really good presence in running stores from what I can remember. It seems weird, but 2010 was 14 years ago now, almost 15 years ago. So I'm like, it was a while ago. But back then, I feel like Mizuno had a much stronger presence in stores. So like that was something that I felt like a lot of people were running in.
Wow. And I guess like obviously the content that you put out now is all about kind of reviewing all of these different amazing shoes and tech and running. Did you review those first Mizuno shoes, or when did you first start putting out your first piece of running content, and what was it?
Yeah, I did not review those Mizuno shoes. I don't even remember which ones they are. I had a white and blue pair and then a very yellow pair, which might have been green. I'm a little colorblind, but I really like those because they remind me of tennis balls. But I never reviewed those because the cameras weren't there yet.
Okay.
And so like I had a camera that could shoot video, but it wasn't, I think GoPro might not have been invented yet, or it was very new at the time. That's how old it is. And so running content didn't really start getting made for me until maybe 2016, 2017, after I'd bought my first GoPro, which was, I think, a used GoPro 3. So like we're on 13 now, so it was a while ago.
But that's so early for creating like any content really. Like social media influencers didn't exist then. The running world wasn't what it is now in terms of its presence on social media. Did you have anyone that you looked up to and thought, I could do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's fitting we're doing this in New York because I was watching a lot of daily vlogs. Casey Neistat was huge on YouTube at the time. And so like I was making just regular vlogs first before I had made running content. And then as I was doing that, incorporating, basically phone footage and GoPro footage to just capture my daily life. That's when my friend asked me to run that race with him. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm trying to make frequent videos. So you're always starved for something to talk about. And so then I was like, all right, well, I can film the run, which is nice because then I'm not like holding my hand up really weird and talking into a camera in 2016, walking down the street where everyone would be like, what? I mean, even now, if you do that, people are like, what is this guy doing? And so it was a nice kind of way to like be a little bit more discreet and then also fill up, a good chunk of the video for that day. So that's where it kind of started. But then the reaction to that was usually a little bit better to just sort of my normal daily life. I mean, because believe it or not, being a lawyer, daily life is kind of boring, at least on video. And so I was like, all right, well, let's follow that. If people are interested in that, let's start making more.
Wow. And so I guess you've kind of been doing these like regular videos, you start doing more of the running ones. At what point do you see this being on a path to being kind of something that can provide for you and your family versus and not turning up to do your conventional job anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it never was the goal.
No.
And I never was like thinking about like, okay, well, let's put one away and then start doing the other. I mean, at one point, so like I was in the legal field, but I had started a consulting firm to help lawyers with trials in the courtroom. So basically visual storytelling in courtrooms, which is where the English and the American systems are a little bit different, where we do have trials for civil cases. And so a lot of times from everything from, trucking accidents to patent litigation, you need a way to convey complex information convincingly to an audience. And so that was like my legal / creative work that I was doing. And that just translated from explaining why a patent is important to why this shoe is great. And so that's kind of how that converted. And I eventually thought, I've been hiring people, growing the team at work. I was like, I'd like to be more of just the face of the company, doing less of the work. And then I can kind of spend more time doing stuff I enjoy more, this hobby of making YouTube videos. and then no one will be mad. Again, it's kind of like, at least the math's working out. So I can do the things that I want to do that are fun, and no one will be mad because at least it's making up for some of my time. And then the pandemic hit, and then a lot of courtrooms were closed for a very long time. And so at that point, I shut that business down. And I was like, well, I'll just spend more time at home. My wife works as well. And so like, I will kind of spend more time with the kids, get to do more of like the running them around to places. And I'll still have enough to like kind of make up for the time that I am spending making videos. But then with the boom that happened during the pandemic, suddenly the demands on my time were more. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing a lot more work now. And I would joke a lot of times that like, when my wife's like, we moved to the suburbs recently. And she was like, what do you want me to tell people that you do here? And I'm like, YouTuber, influencer. That's fine. It answers the question directly. Because the answer to that first was like, stay at home dad or a trophy husband if you want. You could say that too. Which everyone laughs when I say that, but I mean that seriously. But
I think you should be proud.
She always would kind of joke, like, you work way too much and you're gone way too much to say that you're a stay-at-home dad. So I'm like, okay, well then influencer, YouTuber is fine. And it's gotten to the point where, it is a full-time job.
Yeah. Do you remember that first like brand deal or the first shoe you were gifted to review?
Oh yeah. I definitely, well, I mean, so like when I was reviewing shoes, that was the same time where Bluetooth headphones became a thing.
Okay.
And so like the market was flooded with all these things on Amazon that like, you've never heard of the brand before. You don't understand the product name. You don't know if it even works. Is it worth your $40? So I reviewed like a lot of those, and a lot of those started coming in. So those were some of the first things that I got. But the first pair of shoes I got, I definitely remember very well.
What were they?
It was a pair of the Peg Turbos. So like when they first came out, I had like the first pair. I feel like I had the first pair in Chicago for a good month.
That's cool.
They were my favorite shoe.
Yeah.
And then they disappeared for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They reinvented them with the Pegasus Turbo Nature, which was the kind of recycled line, which didn't feel quite as great. And then I think I've just seen a few people this weekend in New York wearing a new line, and they're finally back.
Yeah, I mean they're renamed, rebranded, which I have some particular thoughts on, but yeah, it's been one of like my favorite kind of like lines of shoes that they've made, especially 1 and 2, because there's also, those shoes were great, but also there's that sentimental value of like, this was like, not only was it a pair of shoes gifted from a brand, it was early product. Like it didn't even come in a box. It was at this pop-up race at night, at an event, and they're like, here, run in these. And I was like, no one has these yet. And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
And so does that mean there was like an embargo? You could film and couldn't post it till a certain point, or?
No, I made a video that night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's epic. And I guess like you mentioned that your running and content has very much come in over the years where technology's changed massively. Does that mean looking back at your running, it's all logged on Strava, or were you running before? You said before you had GPS watches. Is your early running just you were doing it completely for fun? Or can you look back and see how your running's transformed and it's all doing in the cloud somewhere?
Yeah, no, like that 2010 marathon, that I don't know where any of that data is. A lot of it was like I printed out like a training plan that was like literally like written on like a calendar, so like each calendar day would have something, and I would like cross it off if I did it. So that's where like that training log is. It's long been recycled at this point. And then I used a variety of apps. So I was a pretty quick early adapter to apps, but I would run like with a phone or something else. But it's not all been on Strava. Most of it's on Strava, but there were years where it was like map my run, all the other like, different mapping apps and running apps. I have like an account on every one because I've had some early miles on each.
I think I did my earliest like cycling and running, which is basically cycling and running to school and back on something that stored it locally on my iPhone at the time. Oh, okay. And now like I tried to find that old app and see if I can get the data back and move it onto my Strava. But alas, it was all stored on the phone itself. Yeah. But I guess it's quite funny because now people getting into running will have every mile they've ever run. I think you said every run you've ever done is on your Strava account.
Yeah, my first ever run was in lockdown, titled like "Ran to the Pub," and I would never have thought I'd be an athlete at that point.
Yeah. I mean, like I distinctly remember like running where I'd be like, I wait for the microwave, the clock to tick over. And I'd be like, all right, that's a minute, let's go. And then you'd run come back inside and then like look at
my
the
God.
microwave again to see what time it is. And then I would also then remember where I ran and like click all like the different turns and the route that I did, and it would map how long you went. And then I'd be like, all right, 6 miles.
Wait, so you used the microwave clock to see how long you...
Yeah.
But if they'd invented the microwave, they surely had like wristwatches.
Yeah. But like I didn't run with a watch.
Okay.
You know, and I didn't have a phone. And so
Because
like,
you'd look at the microwave, head out the door, do your run, and then come straight back to the microwave.
yeah.
I love that. So
Remember, this was 15 years ago.
Would you
14
leave the
years ago.
microwave on, or it was off?
No, I mean, it always has a clock on
But it didn't have your food ready to go.
No, I wasn't cooking.
Okay.
No, so that's very like, simple, pure running for the joy of it, for the love of it.
Yeah.
When did you start like doing regular marathons or like thinking I want to complete all 6 majors?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might have been 2017 to 2018 was the first year that I looked for shoes that I could use to run in the winter. Because before then, you know, especially with running cross country in the fall and then track in the spring, it was always like you ran I didn't really do a lot of good off-season training growing up. And so it'd be like, oh, I guess this season's starting soon. I should probably run. And that'd be like 2 weeks before the season started. I do the season. And then by the end of the season, you know, you ramp up so quickly, your body gets pretty beat up. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm taking a break. And then you realize, oh, I've taken an entire season off. So it was always this cycle of restarting and retraining. And then even into 2017, when I was thinking I might want to run my second marathon, I was like, all right, maybe I should just keep running. You know, I instead of like taking these like 3-month-long, 4-month-long breaks, let's start running in the winter instead of stopping. Usually people stop like in Chicago, we stop like a little bit after the Chicago Marathon is when everyone kind of stops running. That bookends the season. And then there's the Shamrock Shuffle in the spring, which kind of starts the running season. And a lot of people take the entire winter off. And I did that too. And I was like, what if I didn't? And I loved it. I loved it even more than summer running. I loved it even more than like peak marathon training, just like winter kind of off season running miles. Those are my favorite.
And I guess that's partly because the seasons are a bit more extreme in Chicago. How cold does it get in the winter?
I mean, yeah, it gets cold. I would say we get to like, I mean, if it gets below 0 Fahrenheit, which I don't remember the Celsius, I think it's like negative 13 or 14 Celsius. That's a very cold run. And depending if it's windy or not, or how dry the air is, you know, like you might be able to be out there if you're well covered for 30 minutes. But even then, you know, it's really hard to be out there for a long time. But we're routinely like I'm running in the, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So well below freezing. And that's kind of my ideal running weather, where I have to wear like long tights, a thicker layer up top, a hat, maybe a neck gaiter, and then some gloves, mittens. Like those are my favorite running temperatures. Just give me an hour and a half out and like that, and I'll be happy.
And so now kind of without fail since 2016, you run year round.
Maybe it was 27.
Okay.
I think it was the end of 2016 into 2017, or maybe 2017 to 2018. I remember the shoe that got me there was the Pegasus 32 Shield. So whenever that shoe is, that was the first winter where I ran in the winter, and I was like, I don't ever have to stop. This is great.
And how have you found, I guess, your health and how you feel has changed since maybe you left working away in the courtroom and everything else there to now being someone who relatively works in the health and fitness industry?
Yeah, I mean, that was the real big motivator of how good I felt. I mean, the shoes were great. And then so I was like, oh, running doesn't suck right now. And this is great because the shoes are better. And then I was also like, I also feel great. And like, I remember feeling like fit and in shape during, high school when you're running track or cross country. But like, I never felt great like all day, every day. And I was like, I want to, whatever I'm doing, I'm not going to tinker with this. So if running's doing it, great. I also had like kind of a diet change. My wife was pregnant with one of our children at the time. And as part of that, she had to go through some dietary changes. And so we're like, all right, we're doing this as a family. So the diet changed a little bit. And then the running came in, and I'm like, I don't care which of these two things made me feel good, but I'm going to keep doing those two things because I like feeling good. Mm-hmm. And that helped kind of propel everything. And then I was like, well, let's do some more races. Let's test some more shoes. So everything builds on top of that. Like, this makes me feel good living my daily life, and I want to keep that.
Well, I guess, I mean, we chatted about how old you are before we started, and I was shocked to believe how well you've aged. You're clearly looking after your body incredibly well. And you mentioned that one of the things that got you started was your dad signing up for his marathon at 60. Did he do one and then stop, or does he still run?
He's done several now.
Nice.
But like he only ran one with me, that first one, and now he doesn't run anymore. So he's undefeated against me, so he beat me by a good 20 minutes that first time, which was not the result I was expecting.
That is a good way to retire as a dad.
Yeah.
Especially because you said he was in his 60s.
He turned 60. He's like 60 in a couple months.
Do you remember what kind of times he was doing?
I ran like a 450 or something like that, or 440 that first one. And he beat me by a good 20 minutes.
Wow. And so 450 for your first marathon. Since then, you've done countless marathons. You've done doing all 6 majors, like Anya mentioned. What's your fastest time?
That would be Tokyo 256.
Wow. And so what did it feel going sub 3 for the first time?
That was pretty good. So that was my second time under 3 hours. The first time I did it, I was getting paced by a friend. And so I feel like that takes that and made it attainable for me, because I had tried multiple times on my own, gotten pretty close, but having friends kind of like show you the way, I feel like is meaningful on a lot of levels. Like from a performance perspective, it just makes it a lot easier, but it's also nice to be able to share that with a friend. And so that was really, it was a relief. It was fun. I felt powerful, like all really great, like running emotions happen at the same time.
So are times more of a motivator now? Or I guess it's probably trying out more shoes and racing in more shoes as well. And obviously the new technology of shoes. Yeah, what does motivate you now?
It's a good question, because it's like, I got the sub 3, did the 6 stars, and everyone's like, what's next? And I'm like, I don't know. Because as the times go, it's like for men, after 3 hours, like what really is there? Like in the US, the OTQ times, like 2:18. So, and there's a giant chasm between 3 hours and 2:18. And as much as no human is limited and how good a training plan can be, I don't see myself as a 45-year-old getting anywhere near that. So that's not really like something that I'm going to be chasing. And so it's like, so what do the times mean? And so a lot of that after the sub 3 journey was a lot of like, all right, well, what can I do? And so it was more about like, I'm not chasing a specific time anymore, but what I would really like to do is like, let's understand what makes my body work. What are the specific things that can kind of get the most out of myself as someone that I consider myself a very average person. And what happens if an average person really focuses in on something and trying hard and see where that gets me. And so a lot of my race goals are not like, run to feel, run to like exertion, but not run to a clock. And so that's changed that a lot. But then tying that in with like hitting the 6 stars, you're like, well, which marathons do I do that at now? And so a lot of it's like what's left. So there's, and then maybe it's a little bit of like midlife crisis creeping in a little bit too, but it's kind of like, well, there's still other fast marathons that I haven't been to. There's like Valencia. There's a lot of the European ones are very flat and fast. There's a lot of American races that are also very flat and fast too. But what I've enjoyed about like kind of starting to think about that is like the fast times, the performances are part of what's interesting and motivating me at this point. And a lot of it is like, I want to experience running culture in different places. There's a lot of similarities no matter where in the world I go. Yeah. But also like, what are the differences? What are the nuances? Like, how are people treating it differently here? How do the run crews show up? How do average spectators who normally don't care about running, except for the one day of the year that their city has a race, how do they show up? What's that like? What are people carb loading on the night before a race? Those are the kind of questions that are super interesting to me now.
Oh, that's absolutely fascinating. And I mean, we got to experience it a little bit coming over to see New York, as obviously you did as well, and very much a city that gets very behind their marathon. Wow, I guess like you've been on this incredible journey yourself, and I guess at the same time, like we've spoken about, shoes have come a long way since your first Mizuno pair. Do you think shoes have finished evolving, or do you think there's a long way for shoes to keep going?
No, I mean, I think there's still a long way. I think that, it's kind of like a punctuated equilibrium. Like something will happen. All of a sudden there's an explosion of new kind of, oh, look at this. We can do new things with this. Let's tinker. And all the different brands are in their labs and trying new things. And you get a proliferation of new product. And we have been riding that, coinciding with like a pandemic lockdown in a really fun and exciting way over the last kind of like a half decade. But like, as we're starting to see, like a lot of the marathon shoes, like the brands all have really good options. And like the benefits of each one seem to be like, not so much that like, all right, this one is clearly the best for everyone, which is kind of what we saw at the start of like the carbon plated shoe wars. But like, it's like, all right, if you're this type of runner, or if you have these kinds of preferences, this is the one you get versus another type of runner might get that one. And I feel like once we're getting that kind of level of nuance, it's turns into a very mature product field. And I feel like until we get that next really big innovation, we're going to see kind of like a leveling off of like the kinds of product that really wow us and change the running world. But we'll still get lots of nice updates and iterations. But eventually there'll be something else that someone invents or implements or reimagines, and it becomes that next thing that results in that next proliferation of development. So the shoes will always have, more places to go as long as there's motivation to run faster, and we've got like the nerds that are willing to put in the time to develop the products to get the
because I think it's so much like almost like iPhones and the phone industry. I didn't, but like people stumbled across the touchscreen, and then there's this enormous leap forward, and now we've kind of converged on kind of like end state iPhone. They're hardly changing year on year. And then I think what you're saying is that there'll be a new innovation like a touchscreen or a fold or whatever it is, and then they'll go for the next 10 years of iPhones and they'll be drastically different, and then they'll converge again. And maybe like the carbon plate was that, and we've seen this enormous boom and advancement in development, and now they're like converging on finding kind of like end state carbon technology, and then there'll be this new innovation of some different foam that reduces injury, and then they'll all get ahead in their own way. Is that the kind of thing that you're thinking?
Yeah. And so I think one of the ways you can see that is like, you see it in phones too, where they'll sell this year's phone and last year's phone and maybe even the previous year's phones, just different price points. We're seeing something similar to that with a lot of the brands, where we're seeing this year's shoe and maybe there's two kind of flagship options, and then the last year's shoe might still be produced because you might just prefer the sensation of that, not because it's cheaper necessarily. It'd be nice if it were, but like just because you're hitting those different preferences. And so there's all these are great, but you're just matching the right shoe with the right runner, the right athlete at this point. And I feel like that's like maturity. And then I think like where some of the new developments might be, where we're talking about like folds or technology and battery improvements in phones, I think it's going to be in like lightness, durability, and like the kinds of response that the phones give you. Is it more mushy? Is it more springy? Like what are we getting from there? And so I feel like, those material science nerds, like those are the ones that are going to push the running shoe world further again.
So Nike used to be the front runners, and then all the other brands seem to have like kind of caught up now. Are there any brands that really excite you at the moment?
I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening. Some of them you're like, is this real? Are we going to really see it? You have to kind of wait and see. So like here in New York, On had their light spray robot. Spraying shoes, spraying the uppers on shoes.
So they basically, for those who haven't seen it, these are shoes that look normal on the bottom, and then they're basically like a sock glued to your foot on the top, right?
Yeah. And so like, I mean, we've seen different iterations of that. Even Nike had like their Elite Fly print material that like Kipchoge ran in a year. I think remember seeing that like in 2019. So we have seen ideas of that, and like Adidas has been pushing forward with like 3D printed shoes. Now a couple of brands have 3D printed like midsoles or insoles or integrations of 3D printing products in there. So those are also really interesting too. But like, I really think that the major innovations are happening in a less conspicuous way. And they're happening in the foam. So like Puma has their like aliphatic TPU. Adidas has that like non-compression molded light strike pro that's in the Evo 1, which is like super light. The durability isn't quite there yet for like mass consumption. But those are the kinds of innovations where you're getting super light or super durable or both. Like that's where it's going to look kind of like a regular shoe, but it'll be on the inside. That's where the magic is. And I think that, we've hit peak like stack height,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also because it's been then regulated by governing bodies, right?
Yeah.
Which does kind of limit the develop, kind of like bikes as well. There's a limited how light a bike can be before it's not allowed in the Tour de France.
Sure.
So the same for carbon shoes, which maybe limits that advancement in technology. So we've got to find the improvements in the foams and
Yeah. But ultimately where I think I'm going with that is like, if I'm going to put a hot take out there, I think at some point the 40 millimeter rule will be moot because like we won't need or want that much stack height in the foams because of the way the foams are responding. And because then we get again to a point where for the past 5 years, we'll be like, I tolerate the weight because the foam is good. Later, it'll be like, the weight is already good and I don't need more foam to make it better. So like, I think that we'll kind of see a recompressing of like what the stack heights are. That's my
I think
prediction.
I think that's very fascinating that you'd say that. And especially because I think a lower stack height, so your heel lower at the bottom, would replicate more of natural running, almost the way we've evolved to run without shoes in the first place. That the higher your heel running on this downhill kind of setup does engineer us to run faster for now, but it does probably lead to some various different injuries that maybe people wouldn't have seen running in more conventional setups. So maybe we might get the best of both worlds when we can cram all the technology that's currently sat in a 40 mil shoe into a low shoe.
Yeah, I think of it like, imagine if you could wear a cross-country spike, but have like Alpha Fly or Adios Pro level of like compression protection and impact protection in your foot. Like that, I feel like that would be like the ultimate. Hopefully that's like where we're all converging. Whether we actually get there or not, I don't know, but I feel like that's kind of a good North Star at this point is like get all of what we have now and cram it into what we make the pros run in, 20 years ago.
How are the big brands not just like locking you up in one of their labs?
I think that they're all thinking this way because like, when we see stories about like how these foams or these materials or processes get put in, they're scouring in lots of different places anyway. So like that light spray robot we're talking about, like it was this guy who had started a company because he thought about like, what if I made web slingers because I like Spider-Man and tried to make shoes out of that? Someone from On saw that and was like, I know what you could do with that. And then so they, acquired that company and that technology. And so the brands are already thinking about that, even back going further when we think about Boost. Boost was a material made by 3M or some chemical company, and they were using it in lots of different things. And Adidas was like, I got an idea of what we could do with that. And so they're taking these ideas and putting it in there. And so I don't think that I'm at the like the early stage of ideation, like getting from there to like, what technology do we source, where do we get it, how do we get there? There's already people that's their entire jobs and they're really good at what they do.
I guess I'd love to ask, looking at running technology as a whole, GPS watches, apps, Strava, running shoes, in your journey as a runner, what do you think is the most exciting or the thing that's changed the way that you love running the most? And what's the best piece of kind of running innovation that's happened in the last 20 years?
For me and the way that I enjoy running, I think there would be kind of two things that I'd put together is like the lightness of kind of phones or music listening devices, and also a way to keep track of your progress in a more kind of like gamified kind of way. So being able to see in your app, whatever app you're using, like, a circle or a dot or a check mark on every day where you've completed the intended workout or you've done your run, like visually seeing that is very satisfying for me. And so being able to have all of those, boxes lined up is something that I really like and was very motivating for me and instilled in me, I think, in a good way, the idea that running is not about a workout, a session, or a rep. It's about weeks and months and years. And so like there, as much as people kind of like, complain about like the overmetrification of running, I feel like there's a nugget of that we need to really hold on to because it's really motivating for a lot of people. So being able to entertain myself and distract myself from the run and also being able to track my run and think about that run afterwards, those I think would be the two innovations that were the most important for me.
I love that. And I guess last one before we move on to our second half of the podcast. Right now, what is your favorite running shoe?
Yeah, I get that question a lot because I test a lot of shoes. And like a version of that question is like, what shoes are you really running in, or what's your favorite shoes to run in? I'm like, I have ones that I might enjoy like right now because I'm testing shoes, but I don't have like, when no one's looking, here's the ones that I really run in.
Should we reframe the question then?
Yeah.
If we took away every single pair of running shoes you own, and you can only have one pair for the next 20 years,
okay,
for you just to run, doesn't matter about the videos.
Yeah.
What one pair of shoes are we leaving you behind with?
It would be a daily trainer for sure. And so it would probably be like, I'll give you a couple in the daily training category.
And then we'll take some more of them away.
Yeah. No. So it'd be like shoes that I like, really squishy, soft shoes. So like shoes like a Nova Blast, a Mach 6, Rebel, at least the latest one. Like those are shoes that are really great. We've got some new ones coming up that I'm really excited about from Adidas. The Evo SL I think is going to be really fun to run in for a lot of people in a lot of ways. So those shoes that can take the everyday experience of like, I have to run to stay fit, and turn it into like, I can't wait to go running, or I feel off because I haven't run yet today. The shoes that enable people to have that switch, those are my favorite shoes.
Amazing.
I love that. Cool. Well, we're going to segue over to Steph, who's going to come in with our coaching tip of the week.
My top tip today is on the importance of running cadence. Cadence is the number of steps we take per minute and is really useful when looking at someone's running technique. The optimal cadence is around 180 steps per minute, but this will ultimately depend on how tall you are and the speed you're running at. Having too low a cadence can often suggest we are overstriding and landing on our heel. This can increase our chance of injury as the forces coming through the body are a lot higher. A higher cadence creates less impactful steps and lowers our vertical oscillation. This can reduce our chance of injury and create a more efficient and powerful running style. Thinking about cadence can help protect your body from injury and also help you run more efficiently so you can use your energy to run faster.
Thank you very much for that, Steph. So we have a discussion here from one of our runners. So there are so many shoes around and they're so expensive. How many shoes do you think the average runner should have? And what would they be?
I think if you're thinking about starting running, whatever you currently have is great. Like I think starting out running, it's not about like getting into the right gear, the right kit. It's about creating that habit, like leaving space in your day and your week to be able to run. And you don't need to get a new shoe to start that. Start running first. Things will start hurting probably, and then you'll learn about what you need to kind of adapt to from there. I think most people can probably get by really well with one pair. If you want to have fun, I think I would recommend at least 2 to 3. And then like, you know, I usually discuss rotations as like being 4 to 5 shoes. But I think for most people, like having 2, maybe 3, will be a really great way to train.
Okay.
I think also to add to that, like exactly your point of not needing to go and buy loads of shoes, having a really minimal pair of Converse or something really basic and old will kind of force you to learn to run well. Because at the end of the day, if we were to run barefoot and run around your kitchen, you'll find that you have to run on the front of your feet and you can't slam your heel into the ground. Whereas if you start your running journey with the most spongy cushioned shoe that the big brands make, it might allow you to train your body to run with poor form, which will then lead to longer term injuries. So almost forcing yourself to pick it up in the right way can be a really valuable piece of advice as well.
It could be, but you know, cushion shoes are really comfortable and I like them a lot. So like if you want to start out, like when I started running, people would buy the iPod shuffles, the little square ones, saying like, well, this will make me run more. Like if that's you, if you need to go buy something to get yourself into running, go and buy something. If you are worried about spending money, you're not sure if you're going to stick with it, there are a lot of great reasons why, like whatever you have, Converse, skate shoes, a pair of work boots, whatever, just get started and then you could figure out the rest later.
What about you, Anya? What's your answer to that question?
I totally agree. I think 2 is a great number. A really easy pair, comfortable daily pair that you'd use for most things, and then for a bit of fun, a faster pair. I don't think you need a carbon shoe, but if you're racing and that's what you want to do, they're amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. Well, I'm going to take us away with some this or that. So I'm going to give you two options, and you're going to have to pick between. So if we won't be able to pick all the shoes.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to start off with: would you rather GoPro every moment for the rest of your life, or never be able to GoPro a moment again?
Oh, never again. That's an easy one. I'm constantly fight. Am I supposed to give a longer answer?
Oh no, would love. Please,
Okay.
please do.
I don't know if I was ruining the pacing.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I'm constantly fighting the tension of like, especially weekends like this, where like the entire running community's here. I have colleagues that I work with, people from brands that I know that are going to be here, and also friends that I'll be meeting as well. I'm here to capture the weekend, but I also want to be very present and in the moment with the people that I'm with. And so that's something that I'm always having a problem with already and trying to work on and be mindful of. It would be a shame if I couldn't film some of that. But if I had to pick one, I would put the cameras away.
Cool. Okay, I have a feeling I'm going to know the answer to this one already, partly from what you said earlier. But would you rather always wear carbon shoes for your running, or never be able to wear carbon shoes again?
If I had to pick, it'd be never again.
Yeah, you said the daily shoe already.
Yeah. The daily shoes. I mean, those are, like, that's what got me to love running for this kind of like third wave or phase of it in my life. And just the everyday easy run, those are my favorite kinds.
And I guess then linked to the same question, you got into the running, I guess, to do a marathon with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather only ever be able to run in races, marathons, 5Ks, a race, or never be able to do a race, but you can do your daily run?
I would pick not racing again. Like I don't love racing. It's great to be able to test yourself, to put on the bib, to put that like culmination of all your training to the test and really see. But I enjoy the training more than I do the racing. And so like the training part is really fun for me.
I almost think we should then spin the question slightly. Okay. Would you rather never be able to track your running? And that's something that you said you love so much.
Yeah.
So you can never track your running again. I'm now need to thinking of an alternative. So
there are no alternatives. You're not tracking the running. How are you running?
You didn't run. Okay, well there we are. We know. I also love the wholesome kind of way that really all kind of seems to be, which is that you can leave the content behind. You can leave the super fast, crazy shoes behind, and you can leave the races behind. And what it leaves you with is doing a regular, healthy habit that makes you doing that you can build the rest of your life upon.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that as like what you get left behind with is the running community, right? And so I think about that frequently with how fickle social media can be. How long do I really want to do this? How long people want me to be doing this kind of thing? And I think about it all at the end of the day as like, I do events and I meet people and, I'll go to kind of appearances and stuff like that. And it's a lot of work, but I hope at the end of it all, when there's no more videos to be made, is that like if I want to travel somewhere else, I'll have a running friend that I can call and say like, hey, do you have time for an easy 3?
Okay, I've now got the final question. Would you rather never be able to track your running again, or you have to do all of your running solo? As in, so you either run all your running on your own, or you can run with friends, but you can never track it.
Yeah. I think the question underestimates how much I like running by myself, though, as well. But I would pick. I'd give up tracking the run. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. We're going to go into a real runner story sent in. If you have a story to send in, either DM us on Instagram or podcast@runner.com. And if we read it out, we're going to send you a free pair of runner socks. So today's is: during a local half marathon, I spotted what I thought was the finish line ahead and sprinted as fast as I could. Raising my arms in victory, I crossed it, only to realise it was just a sign for the last mile. I had to sheepishly keep running with everyone who had seen me celebrate way too soon.
Oh, that's so sad. Have you had any embarrassing race moments like that?
Not quite. Like I don't know if the person like stopped their watch and everything too.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
Because it feels like kind of that's probably what happened. So I've never gone quite that far, but there are a couple of races where the signage is not all that great. and it's misleading. And so you start your kick a little early and then you realize like, oh, there's still more kicking to do.
Yeah.
Chicago Marathon is famous for having a little, like a 400 meter section. That's like a little bonus. I think it's for the wheelchair racers, but it's near the end. And then you see the number 400 and you think that there's 400 meters left. But in fact, it's at that point, it's like 1,200 meters left. So like people get caught by that every year.
London Marathon have an arch you go through near the end, and it's not the end, it's just like a bridge, but it's all branded London Marathon, and then you have to turn another corner and go down the mile. That catches people out.
I mean, I even just running in New York, I definitely thought that the race was like just the last bit just goes on forever. But I don't know if that's also because you've been running for 41 and a bit kilometers and you're just like desperate for it all to be over.
Yeah, if people don't know that in the New York Marathon, you go into Central Park, which is where the finish is, but you leave Central Park and then go back into it.
Yeah.
And that's how you finish it. So it's tricky. It happens to all of us.
No, absolutely. We've got a closing question.
Okay.
So I guess you've had an amazing running journey so far. If we were to fast forward 10 years from now, what would you like to achieve with your running journey between now and then?
I'd like for people to feel welcome. I think that as welcoming as the running community currently is, I think there's still a lot of people that it's not speaking to. And running has changed my life in so many ways that, I mean, financially, yes, but in ways where I feel good and where I'm healthy and I'm enjoying living in such a different way that I want other people to experience the running benefits, but also the community benefits. And so 10 years from now, I hope that's what people remember.
Well, I also want to bring back our old question because you would be such a fitting person to answer this. So imagine you're on the start line of your next race, your next marathon, and you're completely naked and you can bring 3 things with you. What would they be? Given that you're the expert of all things running technology.
Yeah. Well, half tights.
Sure.
Shoes.
Yeah.
A daily trainer?
Or a carbon shoe. You're on the start line of the marathon.
If it's a race, yeah, I'll put on a pair of carbon shoes.
Are you going to tell us which pair you're picking today?
For my next marathon?
Yeah.
I don't know what my next marathon is. So I don't know if there would be a brand affiliation.
What would it be tomorrow?
If I were to run one tomorrow, it'd be probably one that I haven't run in a race before. Because that way it gives me a chance to test it. I did just get a pair of those light spray shoes from On, so maybe I would just put those on.
I think that's a good choice. Good choice. Okay, so you got 2 things.
Because that kind of covers socks too, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if they're sockless shoes or not, but
I think that's a good.
They
I
are,
don't
I
think.
think.
I'm not sure, but we'll see. But at least in this situation where I'm naked, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and then a watch, so that way I know how far I went.
Nice. And so you said how much you liked the music.
Mm-hmm.
You're leaving that behind?
Yeah, I don't race with music anymore.
Okay.
I train with it. Easy runs are podcasts or audiobooks, and then hard workouts are music. And then for the races, it's headphones off.
Wow. I love that. I think that's a pretty good setup, and I reckon you're going to be running pretty fast at this imaginary marathon tomorrow.
I mean, hopefully it'll be warm because I didn't pick a shirt in there, so it might be cold for that tomorrow.
Wow. No, that is fantastic. And honestly, it's absolutely fascinating to hear about your journey. And obviously we'll tell everyone where they can go and listen to your amazing, or go and watch your amazing content, and hopefully inspire them all to take a similar journey with their running as well.
Yeah, on YouTube and Instagram, those are my main places where I'm at. Kofuzi. And then if you want to listen to the live streams a couple times a week, that's the Kofuzi Run Club on YouTube.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a safe trip back to Chicago.
All right, you guys too.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Runna. If you want to train for any goal, download the app today. And don't forget, you can use the code Runna Podcast for a 2-week free trial.
Whether you enjoyed the episode or not, please like, share, follow, subscribe, do all of that nonsense, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Wow, you made it all the way to the end of the podcast. And so for all of our loyal listeners, we have a special 15% off all of our Runner merchandise. If you want to look as cool as Anya, then go and use the code MyFastSocks for 15% off all of our Runner merchandise. And thank you again for listening.